Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 USA TKD US Open. I'm Barbara Brand right here in Sacramento, along with Miyako Yerick out on the East Coast, and we're ready to begin episode 2, right, Miyako?
That's right. We have 6 episodes for this session, the seniors and masters. Episode 2 now kicking off the second of 2 prelim episodes. So we're going to have the female senior 1 prelim round here. There are 3 flights, 15 athletes in each flight. So let's get going.
Let's go.
Okay, and here we go. The first flight for the female senior 1 division.
Starting off with Cassidy Wallace from the Team M Community Poomsae program. She's coached by An Hui and Long Win. So starting off with Sipchin. And this first line is really super important. It shows the athlete's ability to move from stance to stance in a very balanced manner, and trying to do that as quickly and smoothly as possible. This one, it's always kind of tough to know exactly where to start because the form moves backwards. So she's just there near that door. She doesn't want to be too far back to start, but at the same time, she's got to be a little bit forward in order to not hit that door. And
right, so, certain forms you have to know where to start on the mat so that you don't, I guess in this case, run into the walls, but in a tournament, it's go off the mats.
Right, exactly. So the camera position is very important. So it looks like they have just the right amount of room, just the right amount of clearance in that space. Sipchin is very challenging. It has some slow motion movements followed by some quick action. So it's a very complex form. She starts off with a 6.9. It's a good score for Sipchin. Of course, each of these athletes in the prelim round are going to be doing 2 Poomsae. So in this case, it's going to be Sipchin and Paljong.
And we have 15 athletes in this flight, actually in all 3 flights today. So we will be taking the top 8 scores into the semifinals. I'd like to see a little bit more hip rotation from her there. Also, that 270 rotation is so hard. So many athletes do a double pivot. It's really hard to keep that base foot all in one smooth rotation, but she has some really great front kicks she's showing off here.
And her timing, I like how she's trying to show that volume with those hand techniques, which many on that midline there do it really kind of short and tight. And she was taking her time to make sure she had a lot of volume. So it's Cassidy Wallace from the Team M Community program. And she started off with 6.9 for Sipchin. And slightly lower for Take Paljong with 6.86. So her total score at 6.880. So next up, we have Arika Rising from Poos Taekwondo.
시작.
And Arika is from Oklahoma City. And she's competed at a few state tournaments in Texas where she has won gold for Poomsae.
So this line here where you have to go from a back stance to a front stance to a horse stance and then another one. It's all about trying to make sure that you can do that at the same height with good balance and not taking little extra steps along the way, which is easy to do with Sipchin. Or pre-steps, I guess you would call them.
Right. Any kind of double foot motion is usually something you want to try and edit out and just let your feet pivot at the end in one motion, finishing with your hand techniques.
By edit out, you don't mean in the video, right? You mean
don't edit the videos. I mean, in practicing, work to remove them.
Nice quick front kick line for Arika.
Right. Shipjin has a lot of these slower motions, all of these push blocks here, 5 seconds. So having that front kick bar, the aggressive double punches, it's one of the quicker tempo sections of the form. So that's an area we really look for to see that rhythm come through.
She starts off with a 5.67. So we have a lot of points at stake here, right, Miyako? This is a major event, 12.0. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So, as we are trying to improve ourselves, it's helpful to have these ranking systems that USA Taekwondo is doing now, because you can see yourself improve across tournaments. And then every time you compete in one of these sanctioned events, you get ranking points, and those add up over the course of the year, and then they phase out after 12 months. But that way you can get more points and try and go up in the leaderboard. And then, of course, if you win a major, which this tournament is a major, then you get on the national team roster, which is where the national team gets selected from. So a lot at stake here at the US Open.
Right. So for this event, there are 120 points available if the division has a full rack or full stack or full pack, whatever you want to call it, right? So if you have 8 athletes in that final, then the winner will get those 120 points. So for Arika, she ends up with 5.57 as a score, following her 5.67 for Sipchin. So she finishes this round with a 5.62. So if there's just one athlete in the division, then the athlete there will get 25% of those first place points. If there's 3 or less, you can get up to 50% of those points. So that would be 60 points if there are only 3 or less. And if there's 4 or more, then the athletes will get those full points. So 120 points available for that winner. Up here is Kathleen Lynch from Westside Taekwondo. She's coached by Hillary Monaco.
Kathleen has a nice straight back there. We look for that on that 5 count. On these push blocks here that she's doing, where should those hands finish up, Coach Brand? Off to the side, center line to the nose? What are we looking for this year?
That's varied from side to side and forward and back, and chest facing forward and chest going to the side. And really, it's just a natural movement. And the thumb, the top of the thumb of the forward hand is right at about eye level. And from there, just a little bit off to the side. So it's not a big swinging motion outward, nor is it square to the body. But that's one of those details that we're always asking about right before the event, right? Are there any major changes to that piece there?
Right. I remember, I think it was 2013 maybe, when these times were actually set. Like, this is an 8 count versus Shipjin, those are 5 counts. Before that, I think it was sort of like you can do whatever you wanted within reason, but it's about 10 years now that those timings have been in place.
Right, and it's really just following the natural path of the movement, right? So the ascribe amount of seconds to is just meaning making sure you're using the correct volume on the technique. And oftentimes the referees say, yeah, that's true, 5 seconds plus or minus 1 second.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So this is Kathleen Lynch from Westside Taekwondo. She got a 5.83 for Sipchin and a 6.04. And now into second place. It's a 5.935 total score. This is Leila Amiri. And Leila is from High Five Taekwondo, coached by Master Zhang Yi here in California.
시작!
So that's supposed to be 4 counts up to the eyes and then turning quickly at that point for that first movement in Sipchen.
I remember Leila from some of our earlier tournaments with USA Taekwondo. She was in her garage, I think. So here at the dojang, a little bit more space, especially with Shipjin opening such a wide bar. You need enough mat space. I know I go across more than 4 mats, so she might have needed to come here to the dojang to record these.
Yeah, you really do need a lot of space. I've used up to 16 mats going from side to side. Just kidding. It feels like it though, you're in your home space and you're watching out for walls or, tables, chairs, whatever's in the way. Jeez,
Yep.
You really do need to practice this one in a dojang when you can. So lucky for her, she has that space available.
And I'm looking at Leila's recent Taekwondo accomplishments here, and she's medaled a lot for Team Poomsae. I think junior team, silvers, bronzes. So nice to see her now doing individual. And I remember her from previous tournaments. She's very strong, clean, sharp finishes, a little bit of a extra motion there at the end, but overall really strong candidate.
Yeah, she stays pretty level through the whole form, and that's important in Sipchen, is keep that head height really clean. And she's obviously impressed the referees, getting a 7.2 on Sipchen. That's a high score, the highest score so far in this division.
시작!
Really nice front line. That looked really good. And she made it really important. She knows that camera's there. Every referee has that center view. It's really nice. She's got the rotation here going throughout the technique, and that ended maybe a little bit high, but had full movement throughout. Here, of course, we're looking for that vertical posture during the kick, so.
Just a little bit of hunching on the shoulders on those front kicks, but she's really pushing the height. So I can see her foot flying up there, but we do want to keep those shoulders nice and calm during the kicks.
바로
Well, I'm sure she was really happy with that run,
샷!
and so went with it. So she got a 7.2 from Sipchen, and another strong form for Taegu Paljung, so she gets an even higher score of 7.33.
Yeah, really nice. She's really able to show that power coming through, which helps differentiate her.
So she ends up with a 7.265 and a healthy lead. Next up, we have Karen Rial from Eagles Taekwondo in Southern California.
시작!
Doing a good job staying very level there on the first bar. So far, no movements should come up. After the first stance, you should have been down in that height for the whole thing.
Right, and the majority of that back line as well, right? So we have 2 full lines of being able to check the height.
Right,
Check the
up
stance.
until here. This is where she stands up and now back down.
And now quick attack. This attack line is super important. You got to show the difference in the speed here. You can see the full motion of the core rotating, the torso rotating on that slow motion move, even facing the back. So nice clean performance by Karen Rial.
Wow.
She gets huge score, 7.830. We saw some big scores in last night's episode, so I'm wondering if we're going to see that again.
That's right. We had multiple scores in the 8s, including a combined score in the 8 for some of those men in the prelims rounds. So we'll see how the women do. Of course, different set of judges, so they'll have a different round. But opening up here, Karen with a 7.83 is a really good score. Good rotation, a little bit of a bend in her back. Looking up at the front kicks. And Karen has been a member of the national team many, many times, both in individual and pairs and team. Last year, I believe, for team. But unfortunately, her teammates don't live in the same area, so they weren't able to compete together.
That was a very strong Paul Jong, had really good volume with the hand techniques, and she ends up with a 7.7. So finishes with a 7.765. So yesterday we had 3 athletes with a score higher than 8 for their total score. 8.1 from David Lee, 8.1 from Ho Young Ji, and then also from Karen's brother, Ryan, got 8.050. So we had some high scores yesterday. I imagine we'll have the same today. So how do you pronounce Elizabeth's name? This is Elizabeth from CW Taekwondo at Boston. I know I screwed this up last time.
I'm not sure. I think it's Zhao, but she actually is a newer member of the team, and I've been remote the whole time, so we actually haven't gotten to meet in person yet. So hopefully soon, Elizabeth, we can all see each other at a tournament.
Here, Elizabeth gets a 7.3. That's a second highest score for Sipchin, so good job for Elizabeth. So is there extra lighting being used in this dojang, Miyako?
Yeah, so Master Chuang has a couple of lights set up. They're not quite stage lights, but they're pretty bright. And they're back here with the camera so that the athletes recording are front lit, which just helps them be nice and clear on the camera.
I did test some lighting out for the World Championship. I brought some into the space I was using, and it was so bright, I felt like, it was a light maybe a police use in a helicopter when they're searching for somebody. It was so bright. My retinas were burning. I had to turn them off immediately and get them out of there. So I just went with the natural light. But I do see that has a lot of value in some spaces. So Elizabeth does even better. For her second form, she gets a 7.37. So she'll be in second place here with a score of 7.350. Here are the standings. There's Karen in first, followed by Elizabeth, Leila, Cassidy, Kathleen, and Arika. This is Arika So. So we're going up to 15 athletes in this prelim round, right, Miyako?
That's right, yeah.
So this is Arika So from Eagles Taekwondo.
know we've talked about it before, but especially on Shipjin, this knee on the back stance right here and on the first move, it's just a little bit bended in. You have to be very aware and push the knee so it looks very straight.
She did a little bit better on the second one. The first one, your body just wants to start off with a lot of power and your back knee just wants to go along for the ride. So sometimes hard to control it. You think it's where it's supposed to be, and then you see it waver inward. Well, she did a really good job of building that anticipation for that kick run by nice, slow 5-second motion, and then really went into the kicks hard.
Yeah, I think she also is a really good example of making sure those front kicks are as centered as possible. Sometimes we can let the front kicks flare out and line up with our shoulders, but it should be as centered to your face as you can.
It's a really good score, 7.540. Oftentimes in the prelim rounds, we see all the scores kind of stacked up on top of each other, but there's a lot of gap in between each of these athletes so far.
That's right. I think the judges really using the full range of scores to help us make sure we don't get any ties. Sometimes it can be hard when it's also stacked up. We saw that, I think, in the Grand Slam. There were so many ties. So at least now we have a nice range, although we still have about half of this flight left to go. And again, we're looking for the top 8 scores to take into the semis.
We're really taking our time to finish that completely. I really like that midline there. A little short on that back stance. A little short on this one as well. So a little different than the first ones that we saw in Shipjin.
Sure.
A little lower on this one, 7.37, following her 7.540. And she finishes with a 7.455, so now into second place, right?
준비.
That's right.
This is Amaya Rocky
Stop.
from US Taekwondo Center in Colorado.
And Amaya is a twin, and her sister India also competes, and she'll be in another flight.
I think for her height, if she lengthened her stances a little bit, she might be more comfortable.
Yeah, she looks like she has nice long legs, could stand to lengthen the stances, bend her knees a little bit more. And the girls, the twins, are just 17 years old, so just aging up into this division. I think I remember them in the junior division last year at our Grand Slam US Open.
She's got great flexibility, can definitely kick high.
Want to watch the arm positions on that last move there after the front kicks on the stomp.
바로.
The hands should not touch. The right hand face level, and then the left hand on the body, but the fist is not attached to the elbow.
Yeah, she has a little technical accuracy to work on. I think her highlight of her performance is definitely the height of her kicks right now.
Stop.
And that will serve her well because now we have Paul Jung, lots of front kicks, and that foot flying up above her head. That's a pretty good stance, but when she started, her knee was actually way past her toes. So she could just move the foot forward a couple inches and let that shin be nice and straight would help her.
It's like we want to climb in the screen and just move that foot just a couple of inches.
Yeah.
Out. Yeah, she feels way more comfortable on this form in general. She just aged up than she really has on Shipjin, right? So
yep. Oh, that's true. This is maybe the first time that she's done Shipjin in a tournament.
Yeah, way more familiar on Paljang. She looks like she really likes that form. Although she didn't get as high of a score, she got 6.540, which is a little surprising. So she ends up with a 6.57. This is Zoe Munoz from Texas out of Team Forge Taekwondo.
Nice to see Zoe now in the senior division. AJ, her sister, is also competing in another flight. So we're getting a few sibling matches here in different flights for this senior one female prelims. Pretty good clean finish on these hand techniques. Nice job for Zoe.
Yeah, 6.97 for that first Poomsae.
I'm looking at the list here of the athletes in this prelim group, and a lot of them actually are 17 years old still. Of course, it's just March, so it's the beginning of the year. Many athletes haven't aged up to 18, but there's a lot of newcomers to the senior one division.
And that's a big, well, of course, that's the biggest division, right? That's the really, primary division for a lot of the events worldwide happen in this group here. So these new athletes into this division actually look really good. For the most part, all of them have past experience, right? So they're just bringing it to the next level here. And then they get nice and comfortable. She gets a 6.76 for this one. They get nice and comfortable, find their way. And, they're going to be here for, 12 years? Feels like?
Forever.
Yes.
Forever.
6.5. This is Minji Kang. And Minji is from Dobak Sori and coached by Master Jun Lee. So she's from Korea.
That's right. So we have an international athlete in each of the 3 flights, which means that the order is not based on ranking points, but it is randomized. Nice long stances. I do wish we were a little bit closer. She's a little small, but doing a really good job staying level.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier with Sipchin. It's hard to know exactly where you want to start or put the camera on this one at the beginning. You have to do a few test runs to find out what's going to be just right. And the camera has to be pretty wide, like we were talking about. We have to go way out to the sides on this. So in this case, this space making her look kind of small, and that's unfortunate. It's just the nature of Sipchin.
But she's very calm. Her torso doesn't have any extra motion. It's just very clean. And that was a really low stance there. That back stance finishing it out was really nice.
Yeah, her back stance is great throughout the Poomsae. Very balanced, low, it stays level. And from stance to stance, not much up and down motion or side to side motion.
Her left front kick was so high.
And she's almost vertical, like her body is almost completely vertical, but just lean just a little bit forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really nice. She's got a really calm flow style. Very nice.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's so great to have these international styles so that we can compare and see how the scores stack up.
It looks like a little bit slower, right? But it's just like a nice flow. She still has power.
Yep.
So she finishes with a 7.485.
준비.
So this is Prakya Konakanshi
시작.
from US Taekwondo Center, coached by Master Ho-Jin Park. When she moves from a back stance to front stance, she has a little bit of dip in her back leg in the front stance and just needs to, you can see it there as well, just a little dip in that back knee.
But I do like her quick double punches. They're nice rhythm and tempo to kind of break it up. It goes nice and quick, but some of the other hand techniques, scooping a little bit low or a little bit of a weird path. So just continuing to work through some of those hand techniques, but nice flexible front kicks.
Right, left one off to the side like you were talking about, just a little bit. So she just needs to, she's got great flexibility and speed off the front kick. Just needs to line that up. It's a 6.63.
시작.
Really trying for that rotation. Good job on that effort, trying to get all the way around for that 8 count. Wow, she's got great potential off this front kick.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So we'll see the scores come up again after the next athlete after every 6. But right now, I'm looking at my notes. We have 5 scores in the 7s. And we're taking the top 8. So we'll see what that cutoff comes around to. But right now, I would say it's a high 6.
So she gets a 6.63 again for this form. Let's do the math here. How do you do that, Miyako? Carry the 0.
Divide by 5 plus 2 square root. 6.63.
This is Amber Carlson. Amber is from US Taekwondo Center. And she's also coached by Ho-Jin Park.
She's really focusing on bending that knee.
Ooh.
Wow.
Good job. Wow.
My leg is tired just watching it.
That was awesome. I'm going to see it again. I'm going to replay this one. We're all done here.
And on those 5 counts there, just like the 8 count on Paul Jung, you do want your hips to rotate a little bit. I'm seeing a lot of people doing a good job turning the shoulders, turning the arms, but not the hips. So here, let's watch. Not a ton of hip rotation there. We want just a little bit more, but good hands.
Yeah, it takes a lot of balance to be able to rotate everything. Well, she's really nailed that back stance. So good job on practicing that. That's Amber Carlson from US Taekwondo Center. She gets a 6.66.
She jump.
Little bit of bounce here in some of these stances as she pulls back into the cat stance right here. So really just, you want to stay level in those stances as much as you can.
Yeah, I think Paul Jung is like a really easy form to be bouncing around with, right? It's just a lot of what could seem like short, bouncy steps in the middle there and toward the end. And she might be doing it with her breathing too. Like she's hearing her breathing in that mat and she just starts to bounce by mistake. So she gets a 6.63. She ends up with a 6.645. We have just 3 athletes to go. Here are our standings at the moment with Carrie on first, followed by Minji Kang, Arika Rising, and Elizabeth Zhao. Rounding out the top 8, Leila Amiri, Cassidy Wallace, Zoe Munoz, and Amber Carlson. We still have 3 more athletes to go.
준비.
And the first one is Yerim Jong, who had really good performances at past online
시작.
tournaments.
That's right. I'm looking through some of the recent results that she's gotten, and at the Grand Slam that we had, I think she got a bronze, silver at the Summer of Poomsae. But one of the cool things is that her whole family does Taekwondo, and she competed in the World Taekwondo Poomsae Championships, which it was online in 2020, but they have family division. So it's across generations. So she actually did family team, and I think they won a gold medal.
They had a bunch of different divisions for that, right? Wasn't it like a father and a son and a mother and a
Right.
daughter?
So it has to be across generation. So like grandmother, father, son, or something like across pairs would be, you know, your dad and you could do it. And so since they have their whole family, they could create a team in pairs, which is just so cool.
Did you do it, Miyako? I remember your Uncle Louie wanted to do it with you.
No, I wish. I have to convince some of my aunts and uncles to do Taekwondo, I guess, and get up to a black belt quickly so I can do some pairs and teams.
Let's go, Uncle Louie. Yerim gets a 7.230 reception. Good score.
Good score. Yeah, right now a 7 is getting you into the semis.
시작.
Nice power coming through on those punches towards the camera. Good rotation of the hips. I think this is a good example of taking up the screen. So she's up here in the front, nice and big.
Yeah, that leg looks just like so nice, long, tall from this perspective. Well, her family's done so many of these events. They know just what to do with the camera.
Right, and this is her family's studio, I believe, and they all train and film here, which helps to have that space. Take lots of runs.
셔 경례
So she gets a great score, 7.44. And a total score of 7.335. And the first of our last two competitors, Olivia Marrer from Hongik Hua Taekwondo.
시작.
There's a move here, Coach Brand, after the mountain block, the punch, and then you pull it around. Are we doing hand on top or hand underneath? What's the
Hand
style
on
these
top.
days? On top.
Just on top, yeah.
So I've seen some fist underneath. I know it changes year to year, but for right now, you want to swing that hand around. The fist that was out in the punch, bring it on top.
Right. And sometimes we've tried to watch other competitors from other countries and try to, look and see what other folks are doing. And sometimes you'll see an athlete do one on top and then the next one on the bottom. No. Like,
That was a good job from Olivia turning the torso enough so we could see both of those hands on the last bar.
she gets a 6.63.
시작.
This might have been a little bit short. Just want to make sure they hit at least 7 seconds. She has some nice finishing power, but the hand technique, some of them are just a little bit off. Some of the stances a little bit long. So I think just continuing to work through some of these accuracy details, but like that single knife hand block had a really nice, crisp finish on the hand.
There's some really good moments throughout her Poomsae. She ends up with a 6.540. There was a lot of good technique in there. She had some really good stances and a couple really good strong hand techniques throughout it. She ends up with a 6.585.
준비.
Up next, we have Christina Felkel from Master Kim's World Class Taekwondo. And I remember being so impressed by her at the Grand Slam. Was it, or was it Summer of Poomsae?
I think it was both.
Oh, it's like, wow. I remember her just really surprising me.
Yeah, we don't get a ton of athletes from South Carolina. So it's nice to have her here, and she's done so well. I remember her just being so strong. I think Summer of Poomsae, maybe the video was like on the ground and it was kind of weird. The lighting was dark, and now we have such a good view, good lighting. She is a little bit small in this space here, but it's just very clean.
A little downward motion on that transition there. I don't know if you noticed that. We need to stay the same height right till here. Interesting. Whoa, that was a hard turn. That's very narrow. She's
a little too narrow. I think she's probably trying to cheat into that spot. Although in the middle of the red, I really couldn't tell you where she started. But overall, really, really strong.
She gets a 6.97. She's got really nice high kicks. I remember that from before, and it's like surprising power in some of the kicks that she's had in the past. So let's see how she does with Paul Jung. So no side kicks here in these forms, right? So really great for some athletes, and other athletes saying, man, just let me show off my stuff with a side kick, please.
Yeah. really means that you have to have good hand techniques, clean stances, be really grounded for Shipjin. So it's a different cutoff, right? In the semis, we might have forms with a bunch of side kicks, and so it'll show off a different technique, and we might get different people with higher scores.
Boom. I like that little piece right there.
Yeah, I feel like if she had Shipjin closer, because she looks so clean and strong here for Paljong up in the front. She just needed to be closer.
She had to pull that out to the side so she wouldn't go out off frame to the side, right? That's an issue with Shipjin.
This was nice. I hope she gets a slightly higher score.
Yeah, she should.
Sure.
Although I think she should make it into the semis with a similar score here.
Oh, 6.93.
I think that's enough.
I think it is too. 6.95 should be. So let's see our standings here coming up. We have Karen Rial in first, followed by Minji Kang, Arika So, Elizabeth Zhao, I hope, Yerim Jong, Leila Amiri, Christina Felkel, and Cassidy Wallace rounds out our top 8 from this flight going on to the semifinal round.
And that cutoff there was a 6.880, which was Cassidy Wallace. She went first. It's always hard to go first. You know, you're setting kind of the level for the judges. And so to be able to make it through going first is always a good thing. You should feel good about that.
Yeah, really. It's a challenging thing. But I don't think we should spend too much time thinking about it. Sometimes we get hung up on when we're going to go. This is Hayley Ra. And now we're going into the second flight, right, Miyako?
That's right. So it's the same forms. It's the same division, female senior 1 division, 18 to 30 years old. And this is the second group of 15 athletes. So because it is, again, 15, we'll take the top 8.
Nice, clean stance here.
Look how low that is.
Yeah.
Maybe a little inconsistent in the width on those horse stances.
It's a little like Kumgang. You know, you get some good ones and sometimes the others aren't quite as wide. Your feet don't want to behave.
And Hayley is from New York, Rochester, and she's competed in quite a few of these online tournaments that USA Taekwondo has done, both in individual and pairs. In the Grand Slam, she got second place in pairs, and she actually got third place in the 2020 Grand Slam for individual in this division.
Did we see her brother yesterday?
We did see her brother yesterday. Yeah. So her family, I believe this is her family, Dojong. She has 2 brothers actually who are competing, I think, at this tournament this time. So it's nice to have the whole family involved. Another family affair. Look at that. Wow.
7.5, nice score.
시작.
So we can't compare these scores to the first flight, right, Miyako?
Right. We obviously take a look at the judges, see who the judges are for each of the flights. They could be the same, they could be slightly different. So just kind of reset your mind for each flight that you see, especially for each division, especially across episodes. So just look at her score for these 15 athletes. But a 7.5 is a great score, you know, for any tournament.
Really nice finish, nice and balanced, good height and consistency in those stances there.
차렷. 직내.
So Hayley Ra from New York got a 7.5 for her first form and the same for the second. Up next, we have Christy Park, also another competitor here who's had a lot of experience with our USA TKD events online.
That's right. She got a silver medal, I think, in the Grand Slam that we had. She's also competed in the Pan American Open Poomsae Championships where she got a bronze. And she actually just recently did the AAU Virtual National Championships where she won this division.
So Christy's from Team Kim Poyon.
In a different style, I remember her from our past tournaments. But we're opening up here strong with Hayley followed by Christy to open up these scores. I think they're going to be quite high to open the division or this flight.
Right. And I think that experience of the other online tournaments is going to be a factor. These athletes know how to make their best performance, really sing on camera. Look at that. Boom, right down the center line. Really
yeah,
strong.
Those are so straight.
Good job. That's not by accident. That's a lot of hard work and a lot of experience with these events. You know, a year ago, people might have thought, oh, 7.5, same as Hayley Raw. Might have thought, oh, I'm not sure I want to do one of these online events. You know, it seems like I'll wait to an in-person event would be a better idea. But as it turns out, there have been so many good high quality online competitions. Look at that. That is a really nice start. And athletes have gotten better and better with each event.
Right. I think if you didn't compete for all of 2020, people are making a lot of strides here, and having to watch yourself on video over and over and over really makes you clean up your own form. So I encourage, again, everybody, there's still a bunch of online tournaments coming up. Although hopefully we'll be in person maybe later this year, towards the end of the year, we'll see. But you know, staying consistent is really helpful for your Poomsae and for your scores. If you do these ranking points and you compete, you get points, it'll help you in the long run.
Oh, she has made such progress since the last time I saw her compete.
And she was good to start with, so
7.53. It's just things are just clicking a little bit better. Her transitions are much sharper. So she finishes with a 7.515. This is Kelsey Ha from Team M Taekwondo in California.
Here's a good example of a nice straight knee there on that opening move on the back stance.
Kelsey, like our first two athletes, and many in the first flight also with lots of online competition experience.
That's right. Kelsey, very accomplished in both traditional Poomsae and in freestyle Poomsae, but recently she competed with a couple of her teammates in the Pan Am Championships, which was online in female team. And I believe they got a gold medal. I'm not seeing her record here, so I'm going based on memory. Kelsey's also really flexible. We don't get to see any of her side kicks in this round. We'll see what her scores are. I'm hoping she'll make it into the semis where we can appreciate some of her side kicks. One of the things I really remember about her is that her body doesn't dip so much and her leg just flies up, and it's just so impressive.
So she starts off with a 7.26.
Stop.
And these videos, of course, they're in two forms. It has to be done in one video. So they have to get good forms on both of them, Shipjin and Paljong. And you can tell, I think she's breathing a little bit heavier now. It's the second form with that mask on. It is not easy, especially if you have a good mask that's really tight around the face, to breathe through it on the second form. You definitely can start to feel it. And she's doing a good job staying consistent, nice and strong, taking her time here.
Yeah, it is challenging to use a mask. We use a mask in all of our outdoor classes, even we still mask or double mask. And it is challenging to do that, but the athletes have really learned how to breathe much better over the course of this year.
Yeah.
They've gotten quite used to it. So she gets a 7.1 in her second Poomsae. So she did a good job. She might have had to do that several times, right? Several takes, so each one strong. So she finishes with a 7.180. This is Alana Kim. And Alana is from US Tigers Taekwondo.
All
right, this dojang is in Virginia. I remember a few competitors, maybe some of the younger athletes. Nice straight knee there on the back stance.
She looks like she just moved into this division too, maybe. She's quite young.
Yes, that's right. So she's 17 right now. There's so many, I'm looking at the ages here, so many athletes who are 17 aging up this year. And that can sometimes be hard. Again, since it's 18 to 30 years old, they are a little bit stronger, cleaner than the junior division. But we've had some athletes even in the first flight who came out really strong just entering this division. So it's a tough division overall.
So it'd be good to know if what age the athletes were when they actually got onto a world championship team, you know, like when did they peak? So starting back in 2006, we had Claire Kim, who did it in 2006 and 2007. She was team member, I think, in her mid-20s. And we had Kimberly Fritsch, who was also, I think, in her mid-20s. And then Lillian Angel was quite young. So Alana Kim gets a 7.0 on her first form. Following that, we had Natalie Baker, who I think was just like 18 or 19. She was on the team in 2010, followed by Renee Chen. Now, you might know how old Renee Chen was. Wasn't she from Boston in 2011?
Yeah, she was, I think, in her early 20s. I think she might have already been done with college at that point, though. She might have just been starting a master's.
We had TV Huynh, and Megan Yee, I think also in her
Megan was very young.
Yeah,
Megan, I think. Yeah, Megan was fairly young when she was on the team. Carissa was much older. That was 2014. She would have been 25.
And then 2016, she was also on the team.
That was 27.
Yeah, AJ Munoz in early 20s, and then Esther Joe. I think
very young.
Yeah. So we're, for the most part, these athletes are, you know, not much older than these young athletes that we're seeing here to the mid-20s. So 7.030. So that's interesting. I don't think we had anybody maybe over age 26, even though it goes up to 30, right?
That's right.
준비. 시작.
So this is Hayley Win from US Taekwondo Center.
And you were saying that's for the senior 1 division, which is what we're watching right now, the 18 to 30-year-olds. But if you look at the senior 2 and the higher master divisions, it's not the case. You have people make the national team at the last year of the division and do really well on the international scene.
Right.
So these divisions do not get easier.
Right. They get, I think, it depends on the division, but yeah, the athletes like in the masters divisions, they get more and more seasoned and stronger as they go, for sure.
Yeah, last year we had Carissa just age up into senior 2, And Kathy Zhou was in her last year in senior 2. And Kathy won the division, had that national team spot in her last year. Now she's aged up this year into a new age group. So it's definitely interesting. But I think it just goes to show that you can continue to improve, continue to compete, for decades. This isn't the end. Some people stop when they go to college. You can keep competing years and years.
We also saw that, I think, in Twal Win's division, right? So
yes,
she's about to age up 6.7.
시작.
Hayley's doing a pretty good job here. A little slight bend forward in her torso. Want to just make sure that the torso is straight up, and then you just bend at the knee. We've seen a couple of athletes with ponytails. Are there any deductions? What's the rule for that, Coach Brand?
Well, you want to look as calm as possible. So most athletes tend to put their hair up, right? So we don't see a lot of swing back and forth. Many athletes think that's super cool in freestyle, get a lot of motion off the hair. But in regular Poomsae, want to keep a very calm, clean cut look. It's a 6.57 for second Poomsae. So finishes with a 6.635.
준비.
This is McKinney Downey Porter. Remember this space. It looks like where Abigail Skraback, our fierce competitor, competes. I don't know if that's
right. Yeah, it looks like the same space. And I don't think that we've seen McKenna before.
No, I don't think so. So this is Tiger Kim's.
So that move right there, the fist went underneath. We want to switch that to on top next time. Quick double punches.
Maybe a little lower and then just stay low on that transition rather than coming up and down. Same thing there. She's got nice reach on those front kicks.
Yeah, watch the double punches. They weren't quite even. One fist slightly higher than the other and not a little bit too wide. So just a couple little accuracy things to continue to work on, but great flexibility, pretty good stances overall, and a nice quick double punch. So I think a lot of good things to work with here. We'll get to see more front kicks here in Poljang.
시작.
That right punch, not quite centered. The left one was closer to the center line. And of course, we're being very nitpicky here. I know I go back and watch my videos and like one of my punches is off. I'm like, it's good enough. I'm tired. Like I've done enough takes. We're just going to take this one. She's trying to stay really low on those cat stances. They're a little bit long, but I appreciate the effort to try and stay low.
Yeah, she's trying to bend those knees nice and deep. She's very intentional about what she's doing, especially this last line, these last 2 or 3 lines, really trying to take her time and put her stance out where she wants it to be. So that was McKenna Downey Porter. Much higher score here for the second Poomsae at 6.87. She finishes with a 6.685, and we should be seeing that. There we go. Here are the standings with Christy Park in first, followed by Hayley Ra, Kelsey Ha, Alana Kim, McKinney Downey Porter, and Hayley Win.
준비.
This is Ingrid Darcy. She's from Nicaragua, I think so. No.
시작.
Yep, I think that's right. I think she's one of our international competitors.
Oh, right. So we had a male competitor in the same space yesterday. Did very well in the male division.
Nice stacked weight there on the back stance.
So I believe her teammate made it into the semifinal round after yesterday's performance. So hopefully she can do the same.
Yeah, so we just saw the first 6 scores. Again, there are 15 competitors. We'll take the top 8 scores. And it's quite a range right now from a 6.6 all the way up to a 7.5. So there's good range of scores. We're not sure what the cutoff is going to be for now.
She's got a really nice right front kick. She's a little narrow on a couple of these stances going on the back end, but really good. So Ingrid gets a 6.7. Got a few accuracy hits there.
준비. 시작.
Yeah, some of those hand techniques just a little bit low, a little bit off. Maybe it's just the camera angle, but from what we're seeing, I think she's probably getting some dings there.
Punch a little extra twist on them. I think a little extra rotation and then just a little bit low. Looking better here on this midline. Maybe a little bit more bend in the knee would be helping her. See, that right front kick just goes right up there for her. Little low on that first front kick to the rear. It needs to be to the head height.
바로. 차렷. 경례.
So Ingrid Darcy from Nicaragua gets a 6.7 for her first form and a 7.03 for the second.
It's a nice jump there.
Yeah, finishes with a 6.885.
준비.
This is Autumn Tolley.
시작.
Autumn is from Flying V Martial Arts. We had a lot of competitors from Flying V at the Grand Slam. Summer Poomsae as well, but it seemed like we had many more at the Grand Slam.
Yeah, remember this dojang? I think the line of bobs is different this time. It's always fun to look at.
Oh, a little narrow on this one.
A little bit more hip rotation there again on that 5 count. You want the body to rotate.
So it's what you were mentioning with the kicks, the right and left, just a little bit off to the right side and the left side. She's got a beautiful kick, just needs to line them up to the center.
바로.
Autumn is another one of our athletes, 17 right now, turning 18 this year, so just entering the division. And she got a 6.73
시작.
on that first form. She's competed at Nationals and US Open in 2018 and got bronze medals in the teams division for the juniors. So we'll see if she continues to do team now in the seniors. The nice thing about the seniors, you know, is because it's 18 to 30, you're in that division for a lot longer. You can find more people to do team with for a longer period of time. Whereas cadets and juniors, it's so hard. So you're only there for 3 years. Your partner might age up before you, and then they're not there. It's a lot easier to find teammates, I feel like, in senior one. And yet there's not that many teams. So I encourage everyone, continue to do teams and pairs in senior one.
It seems almost like they should keep the individual divisions the same, but maybe open up the cadet and junior to allow them to do pairs and teams together. We have a lot longer to practice together.
Yeah.
Really invest a lot of time and energy, you know, and parental support to knowing that they'll be together for a little longer. And she gets a 6.8. Not that that suggestion is going to go anywhere, but I think it would be fun. Yeah. Let them play together a little bit longer. She receives a 6.765 for her final score.
준비.
This is Courtney Vesey from US Taekwondo Center.
시작.
Courtney also competes in freestyle, and she does freestyle pairs. Really great success recently. She got second place at the Grand Slam and third place in the, I think, in-person Grand Slam that we had in 2020 in January before we shut things down. So she was an alternate on one of those tournaments, third place. Her partner is so tall. I remember him because he's like 7 foot tall or something. And I was like, there's no way he's going to be able to do these tricks and flips. And he does. And it's it's really cool. They had a really fun routine. I still remember it. They had like some splits and front rolls, and it was really cool. I enjoyed watching it.
바로.
And I've also seen Courtney competing at some of the European online tournaments. So it's great that she's putting herself out there, really trying to improve her Poomsae in the traditional as well as freestyle.
So it's Courtney Vesey getting a 6.230. I think maybe just lengthening out some of her stances would go a long way in her score improving. And a little wide on some of the front stances with the front foot turned inward. A lot of times the athletes turn that front foot inward in preparation of the next movement. So it's almost for a good reason, like they're thinking ahead and anticipating, but it kind of sabotages them at the same time.
바로.
Nice finish. I think one of the best part of her kicks was her jump kick
쇼.
there at the end.
차렷. 경례.
Yeah, she has some really great flexible kicks, and her speed actually increased in the second half. She went a lot faster, but did take some accuracy deductions there. Although a higher score in the second form.
So she'll finish with a 6.280. So this is Erin Klingerman. And Erin is from Co-Martial Arts in Indiana.
I do have to say, this is another athlete, Erin. She's 18, might be her first time doing Shipjin in competition. All these 17-year-olds as a junior, you don't compete with Pyeongwon or Shipjin. So now for this division, senior one, the forms are Taeguk Yukjang 6 through Shipjin. And all of these athletes so far have looked very comfortable with Shipjin.
I don't know if I agree with that, Miyako.
Oh, scandalous.
Looks like they're feeling their way through Shipjin.
I mean, there are some slower tempos, but I don't think that necessarily is discomfort. I think you can take it so that you can think through it a little bit. Like you can see that she might be thinking, but she's doing all the moves really well. Like it's just getting to the point where you can connect them and show your own individual style through the form. But they are moving through it really well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They're doing very well in their first year of Sipchin. There are a lot of little tricky things about that form and the change of the speed, right? There's just so many slow motion movements, and then from there, building up anticipation and then having to burst out forward with the next step. And they are doing a good job trying to navigate that. But I know that as the years go by, they'll feel more and more settled with it, and then not so much, and then a little bit more, and then not so much again. So it's a big learning curve with Sipchin.
Again, want to be aware of the punches and those blocks coming to the center line, but not below the belt. So some of the women will wear the belt slightly higher where your waist is. But if you wear your belt higher, you have to make sure that those hand techniques are finishing above the belt. That space between solar plexus and belt can get a little small depending on where the belt sits. So just be aware of that. Watch the video.
Yeah, you can see her V-neck where that ends, and then the top of the belt is just a very small little band. So she gets a 6.56 on the second form and finishes with a 6.445.
준비.
This is Catherine Baker from, this looks like Bernard Posey School, right?
시작.
That's right.
From Pure Taekwondo Center in
Right.
North Carolina.
Yeah, slightly different side of the dojang than we've seen before, but I remember those little graphics on the back wall. Catherine Baker, also 18.
A little lower maybe on these stances will help her score. A little too high on the front stance. This is a little wide. Bring it in a little bit. These look a little bit better coming to the front.
Pro.
Yeah, I think she looks pretty tall for her age, very lanky limbs. You just have to be careful, make sure that you're sinking low enough into the stances if you do have some, skinnier limbs, because they have to show the bend.
Did you say skinnier limbs?
She's very skinny.
시작.
I think you mean lean.
Lean. There's nothing wrong with being skinny. Those punches a little bit low. Again, it was just above the belt. So again, watch where the belt is. And here, maybe tuck those hips under so that there's not that bend in the back.
Yeah, a little more length here would be more comfortable. Little low on that technique. Yeah, punches finishing a little low as well.
Camera also might be a little bit high, which is helping with that angle, just looking a little bit off.
I think maybe it's because of the lean. Like she's leaning a little bit with the upper body, and that sends that punch downward.
Yeah.
So maybe a more vertical posture would be helpful. So she finishes with a 6.5. She's a very strong athlete. I think just like all of us, you have to tend to those million little details, right? This is Jasmine Pitkuit. She is from the Taekwondo Club at the University of Central Florida. That's clear across the country from here.
She's also 18 years old, so must have just started college, and she already has her third dan. I'm so impressed by these athletes who, just starting college, already third dan, masters.
So here are our standings so far. We have first place Christy Park, followed by Hayley Win, Kelsey Ha, Alana Kim, Ingrid Darcy, Autumn Tully, McKenna Downey Porter, and Hayley Win. We're taking the top 8, right, Miyako, into the semifinal round for this flight.
That's right. So right now that score is a 6.635, but we have 3 athletes left.
Starting off with Fengyi Liu. And she's from Team Champion on Long Island.
She's moving her head a little bit slowly and kind of with it before the movement starts. So she's getting a lot of head rotation throughout the moves rather than like getting there and looking in the direction. It's a very small thing. But the first bar, just watch so that you look a little bit more quickly in the direction you're going so that your head doesn't look like it's constantly moving. Maybe a little bit more connection there in that offensive kick bar.
Right, she looks like she's being really careful. And she gets a pretty good score, nice safe score, 7.0. Now imagine her speed will feel a little bit more comfortable. A little off on that punch, that final punch to the front, a little bit over rotated.
Could have a little bit more bend in that front knee here too, but a nice click on some of these hand techniques. That right leg front kick tends to go just outside the head, more in line with the shoulder. The left one, I think, was more straight. So just watch that right leg being really centered.
Right, we're seeing quite a few athletes do that in this division. Then you go back and you look at the folks that are in front there, right? Christy Park and Kelsey Ha and Hayley Win. And you see those guys, they're pretty much kicking right into the center line. Nice and clean.
You know, that's something that I hadn't even thought of before. I didn't know that I was doing it wrong. So it's just something that maybe now your attention is drawn to it and you can focus on it.
And Fengyi finishes with a 6.965. Ooh, Renee, am I saying this right, Zhao?
Yes.
I love this outdoor look. Just like you, I love it when they're outside in the elements.
Yeah, this is great. So Renee just I guess it's been a while now, but in the last year moved to California for medical school. And Renee was on the national team with me for a team in 2019, female team. And I was worried, going to go to medical school, become a doctor. How is she going to keep training? She's totally training so, consistently. I'm just so impressed by her and just doing better and better each tournament. And this is on top of her apartment roof. That's where she's doing this recording.
Well, what city is this?
I want to say UCLA. I think that's where she's at school. But she is from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Well, this is great space, and lucky for her, her apartment complex owners had some mat up there for her ready to go. She moved in. Maybe that was part of the agreement. It's perfect for Poomsae. Now we know when we go out looking for new places to live, we need to find at least a space that's 6 mats by 6 mats open, right?
Well, it's also funny watching people. So it looks like she has some of the smaller squares versus the bigger ones that we normally compete with.
Yeah, I was just counting and they look like a little on the tiny side.
That was a good job. Good presence from Renee, finishing just at the edge of her mats and a good score.
She gets a 7.2. So those are great because then you can just tear them apart and stack them up in the apartment and pull them out when you need them.
Mm-hmm. Although maybe not so great for stomping for the people who live on the top floor.
Yep.
We're still getting some hip rotation there. That's really nice. Nice rotation. I love this setting. It's just so cool.
Yeah, perfect time of day. I wonder if that's just a mural behind her. It's not even real.
We need somebody to like wave from the window next time.
She's really indoors.
Nice high front kicks there to the back.
Very nice. Very nice stances. Very clean work.
I liked it. Good job, Renee.
Okay, so she had a 7.2, really good score on her first one. We don't have anything like the real high 7s, although we do have some 7.5s from those first competitors. And for this one, a little lower for Renee. She gets a 7.1. So she'll finish with a 7.15. And I believe this is our last competitor.
Yep.
This is your classmate, Miyako,
Yes.
or your teammate? So shall I say Kira-chan?
That's right.
From TA's Black Belt Academy. So not associated with CW.
Yeah, so she lives in Massachusetts outside Boston, trains at Tiger On's Taekwondo or Tiger On's martial arts. And so that's her home dojang, but she's on our competition team. So she's part of the T-Boss competition team, which is associated with CW, but CW is the local dojang there in Cambridge. So she still has her affiliation with her home dojang where she also teaches. They have weapons and demo. It's really cool. It's a cool dojang to check out. And Kira's done well. She made it to the finals, I believe, in both the Summer of Poomsae and the Grand Slam last year.
And she's also freestyle as well.
Yes, that's right. She does freestyle individual and freestyle pairs. And sometimes we even do freestyle teams. So Kira's one of those athletes that competes in sometimes up to 6 divisions. She can really do all of it. I think that last back stance was a little bit high, but overall really nice, solid form.
She gets a 7.1 for her first Poomsae.
Some of her stances are looking just a tad short for me, but overall I think they're fine in the accuracy realm.
Yeah, I think more so in Sipchin, that first line there, the horse stances were a little bit on the abbreviated side. I'd like to see those out a little bit wider. You know, from day to day, sometimes we feel like that's as wide as we can go. And then we look back at the video and say, what happened there? I felt like I was wider, but I'm short.
I'm short. Just got to bend our knees, got to do some more squats, build up those legs.
So second Poomsae 7.07. And Kira's going to finish with a 7.085. So here are the standings at the end of this division. Here we have Christy Park in first, followed by Hayley Raw, Kelsey Ha, Renee Zhao, Kira Chan, Alana Kim, Fengi Liu, Ingrid Darcy. Those are the athletes that are moving on to the semifinal round.
All right, so that cutoff there was a 6.885, which actually was very similar to the cutoff from the first flight, which was a 6.88.
And similar to what we saw at probably Grand Slam and Summer Poomsae, right?
I think
Right
so,
in that
yeah.
neighborhood.
준비.
So now moving on to the under 30. Is this the third flight?
That's right, yeah. So we had a 45 total athletes in this division. So we have 3 flights of 15 athletes for the senior 1 female division.
Right, so this is Callie Waldman from Arizona Pride, the World Taekwondo Center, pushed by Ruben Lawley and Megan Yee, who we mentioned earlier as one of the senior representatives on the World Championship team. This was back in 2013 that she represented the US at the World Championship. So it's always good to have a coach who has experience in the same division. And we have a couple that have been there. So AJ Munoz in that division, and then Megan Yee in that division now coaching athletes.
Right. And Callie is just aging up into this division, 17 years old right now. So shipped in a new form for her. It looked like those last 2 punches maybe weren't coming from the same hip. So on those last 2 moves, really want to make sure both fists coming all the way over to the side. But wow, look at that. We're opening with a massive score.
7-7.
7-7-7.
Wow.
시작.
Could be a little bit longer here. In general, the Arizona Pride athletes tend to be very low and grounded in their stances, so that's always fun to watch. I like that style personally, so I'm always like clicked into it when I see it. This team in particular seems to want to try for that every single time. See, it's just a little short and a little wide on the front stances.
Just a little bit of a bounce too in the height in some of these transitions. So pushing to try and stay low, but you have to make sure it's flat all the way across on those transitions.
드랩. 경례.
So much higher score though, 7.87 for her second Poomsae. And while we are off to a high score start here in the third flight of this senior 1 division. So Callie received a 7.82 total score. This is Katharina Sokolova. She's from Lee's US Taekwondo in Texas, and she's coached by Eun Lee, a current, or I should say 2020 national team member. And her coach, Eun Lee, has been on the team 3 times for the World Championship, 2016, 2018, and 2020. 2018, her coach got silver medal at World Championship, and 2020, a bronze. So
It's always great to have,
other athletes in this division that having that same benefit of a coach who's been on the team and done well on the team.
And not only that, but Sokolova is not a very common name, I would say, in the Poomsae world. So I'm assuming that her mom is Maria Sokolova, who we have seen compete in some of the other divisions. And I believe was on the national team in 2019 for female senior 2 team.
Well, I think for the Pan Am, right?
Or was it Pan Am's or President's Cup?
Oh, you might be right. President's Cup might be right.
And I don't think I've seen Katharina before. So it's great to see her. And, you know, in the World Taekwondo Online Poomsae Open Championships, she competed in family pair. So I wonder if she competed with her mom and they made it to the semifinals. So that's very cool.
And she gets a 7.36 in the first Poomsae.
시작.
Pretty good rotation on those 8 counts. Little bit of a bounce here in these transitions.
Yeah, a little swing, right, on some of these. I think she can do it, just maybe not rush and make sure she knows where her weight is. So when she shifts that weight, it's not looking like it's bouncing from place to place.
Right. It looks like she was actually a red belt in 2019. So she's a somewhat new black belt, had to learn all of these new black belt forms to compete.
큰일.
So maybe just still getting comfortable with some of these forms.
She gets a good score, 7.240, following that 7.36 for her first one. She's going to finish with a solid 7.3. Up next, we have frequent competitor Vivian Vo, training at a Kwang Trung Martial Arts Institute.
That's right. Frequent competitor, but that was the junior division last year. So now aging up into the senior 1 division. At the Grand Slam, she got 2nd place in junior pairs, and she's a 2-time AAU national team member. But that was all, I think, as a junior. So now we'll see how she does in the senior 1 division.
Yeah, this first line looked really good. Going to the back, she's a little narrow here. But in general, that first line was pretty solid. But got to make sure that weight stays the same from those last 2 steps there in that transition. A lot of athletes coming up and down, going from their rear to their left.
Her left front kick a little bit outside again. Taking a different approach on that older push motion there, really kind of circular rather than pushing straight forward.
So the judges liked it. She gets a 7.76, so just a hair behind Callie Waldman with a 7.77.
Very quick on some of these draws on the blocks. I don't know if she wants to let them develop a little bit more, go through. I mean, they're all accurate. It's just a very different, quick tempo on the blocks.
Yeah, a little bit more volume and a little bit, a little bit more time spent on that preset will make that quick execution look even better.
Bottom.
But we're being picky here, looking at kind of the style because she's getting such a high score.
Yeah, she's solid overall, so it's just now a matter of some timing elements, right? So huge score 7.86. So both of those just under Callie Waldman's score. Callie getting a 7.87 on the same form. So Vivian's going to finish up with a 7.810, and now in second place. This is Valerie Long from Cole Martial Arts.
시작.
Maybe sit a little bit lower in these stances.
Yeah, on that first line, just gonna have to push her feet out a little bit more and drop those hips down to make that happen. That's a transition I'm talking about, going from the rear to the left. A lot of athletes having an up and down movement where they can just stay level. And on that one as well, just staying as level as you can without a bounce.
Right, and as they get more comfortable with Shipjin, I think this is one of the bars, that front kick bar, could be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit faster, more connected, especially because Shipjin has so many of those 5-second stops. You have to have a really interesting, quick tempo when you have the opportunity, and that's really on that front kick bar.
And she gets a 7.6, but it's easy to get kind of hypnotized in your own timing, and pretty soon you're doing everything at the same speed. And you don't even realize it's happening until you start looking at your recording maybe and seeing that there's a lack of contrast there. Looking good here with the balance, maybe just pushing out a little bit more forward with that front foot. A nice posture in that second front kick, a real vertical position for her body. And again, these maybe a little bit more length or on the front stance, but also looks like just a tad too wide to be able to do that comfortably. So Valerie Long received a 7.6 for her first Poomsae and a 7.56 for the second. So all these scores so far in this flight, this third flight of the senior one female division, all of them pretty high scores. She finishes with a 7.58. Up next, we have Catherine Tong. She's from CW Taekwondo at Boston.
And Kat Tong, in the past year or so, moved out to the West Coast. She's near Seattle now, I think. Coaching at the University of Washington. So she's the coach of the Husky team, and they just had an online tournament, the Husky Games. Kat was on the 2018 national team for female senior one team with myself and Hillary Monaco. And we, I think, got a silver medal in female team Pan Am Championships. And she might be one of the oldest competitors in this group. I don't have the age for everybody, but I think she, I don't want to get her age wrong. I think she's 27, 28, somewhere around there. So, and she's just gotten better and better over the years. I think it goes to show you, you don't have to stop competing at any point. You can still continue to get better throughout this really long division.
Yeah, so she might be peaking sometime in the next couple years or so in this division. So she's got to feel super familiar and comfortable. She definitely has her timing locked in. She is really on track with that. Sometimes we see the athletes go super fast in a section or start off just right and then end up speeding it up at the end, but she's pretty locked in throughout the whole form. So Catherine Tong got a 7.46 for the first form and higher here, 7.57. She felt really settled in that, it looked like, for the second. So she's going to finish up with a 7.515.
준비.
This is Omelen Rhodes from US Taekwondo Center in
Stop.
Aurora, Colorado. I just immediately want to go to her and just push her down a little bit. Just drop her hips just a little. She might have to spread out her feet a bit for that to happen.
And I don't have Onwen's age here in my notes, but she looks pretty young. And I wonder if because of COVID, a lot of athletes are staying at home for the first year of college. And so maybe they're more able to compete and continue training at their home dojongs, because I feel like this is a ton of 17 and 18-year-olds compared to normal years.
Yeah, but even though many can do this competition recording at their site like this, a lot of them are still training at home. When we train at home, we have these restricted spaces, which we're seeing might be impacting the athlete's ability to spread out their stance a little bit. So that might
But it's still probably more space than a dorm room would be.
Yeah, exactly. So she gets a 6.77 for her first shot.
Stop.
I think just extending those stances a little bit, staying grounded,
바로
trying to quiet down the upper body a little bit,
차렷.
if that makes sense. So
경례.
just reduce any kind of shoulder hunching, any extra motion will help get that performance or presentation accuracy score just up a little bit. But that's a nice jump here on the second score.
Yeah, she's getting really close to that 7. She gets a 6.97 for the second one, so ends up with a 6.87. So here are standing so far in this third flight of the Senior 1 female division. Callie Waldman in first. That was our first competitor, followed by Vivian Vo and Valerie Long. I think Kat Tong was in that fourth spot. This is Natalya Unitones. And Natalya is from the Taekwondo Athletics Center, coached by Master Juan Catalan. This is a kind of the view that we were hoping for from some of the other competitors, where we get a nice close view. She's really close up against that wall here. I'm gonna look at this transition. I talked about it before. If she stays low, right, rather than coming up and down on that switch.
I think that hand when she pulled might have been the wrong position. Needs to be palm in on that fist on the pull. But wow, those front kicks.
Nice kicks. And this view is really clean.
Oh, and she stepped backwards to finish. So that should be, that could potentially be 2 majors if you miss your mark and you take the wrong step. We'll see. It does not look like the judges took off any points there, because that's a big score.
Oh yeah, 7.56.
She does have a couple of double pivots, so just needs to be careful in some of the foot transitions. But overall, she has some really nice hand techniques and power. And those feet totally clearing her head in the back.
Yeah, she's great front kick potential. So that's Natalya Unitones, and she received a 7.56 on the first one. Look at that, much higher on this one, 7.87.
준비.
So this is Mira Patel, and Mira is from Ichthus Taekwondo.
시작.
Really want to work on stacking that weight a little bit straighter. She looks a little bent out of shape on those back stances.
We're just looking to make sure the shoulder and the hip and the knee and the ankle are all on the same line. So in this position, her shoulders are a little forward and the hips are a little bit back. Okay, nice, tall, long kicks is probably the highlight of her form at this point.
바로.
So she finishes with a 6.9 for her first form. I think she's new. Is she new to competition, Miyako?
I don't have any notes for her, so this might be either
Sure.
her first time at one of our, USA Taekwondo tournaments or online, or maybe she's just, I can't tell if she has 1 bar or 2 bars on her black belt. So she might be a new black belt. I'm not sure.
Well, that's great if she's jumping in at this point. Of course, we want, every athlete out there in USA Taekwondo to jump into these competitions, because with every single one, we're finding that the athletes are getting stronger and stronger. We thought that we weren't quite sure what was going to happen with all these online events, right? We just didn't know. But based on this division alone, we're seeing such growth.
Absolutely. And I think it really helps to have, we talk about this every time, but having these videos on YouTube so that we can go back and watch them and have access to hundreds of people doing the same form. And if you, are new to Shipjin, say for this, division, go watch other divisions do it and then just watch it over and over and over. And you'll start picking up on the little things that maybe you didn't know before.
And she got much higher score on her second one. So Mira receives a total score of, 7.13 for second Poomsae and then 7.015 for the total. So this is Eva Sanderson. She's from Gangnam Sport Taekwondo. And looks like she's training in Denmark.
That's right. And I believe that Eva is the national team member from Denmark for this division. I know she recently aged up. She was very accomplished in the junior division.
She's a nice, confident, strong start. Look at that.
Yeah, she has some really great finishing power. Knew exactly where that wall was, still able to get full power. Little narrow on that back stance.
A little shy of this one. That first line was great. Like all those kettlebells off to the side.
And they're hanging too. It must be some strong nails.
Nice. Right.
Really nice. So here's an example, not a very quick tempo, but very clean, very strong. She's sort of sitting in that pocket and then makes the connections where she needs them to be. I think this is a good example of a rhythm.
Yeah, that's that grounded position we're talking about, so she can get that rhythm from that. Look at that huge score, 8.140. That's her first one over 8 in this flight.
For today, yeah. For today, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know if we had any other 8s.
Yeah, I'm looking back. I don't see any there.
Got some 7-8s, but that might be it. Nice extended reach here. Losing some of the bend in that front knee as she's rotating the hips.
Well, her foot was a little bit off, so that caused that, but this side a little bit better. Took her time to put this down a little more carefully. A little heel pop there on that transition. Wow.
This is really nice to watch.
Look at that. Feet way over her head from this rear view.
Quick finish tempo. Boom, boom, boom.
Follow.
You think another 8?
I think so. Go, Eva, another 8.
Tilt. Kenya.
Did she start there? Oh, look at that. Exactly the same. Okay, so Eva Sanderson now well into first place with an 8.140.
준비.
This is Emily Rice. I remember Emily Rice from past online tournaments. Emily is from Force One Taekwondo in Oregon.
Looks like she might have on a Fitbit or a watch of some kind. So just want to make sure you take off all jewelry in the future for competitions. A lot of athletes actually doing a narrow back stance there on that 270. It is a hard transition, making sure that you get that foot far enough open.
And just pull those hands to the side. So instead of having a normal front kick posture, we need to pull those punches back to the side of the body. So a couple of these preparatory movements just need to be, tooled up a little bit, and she'll be good to go. So it's Emily Rice from Oregon. She starts off with a 6.03.
시작.
Emily also does power breaking and won a gold medal at the US Open Hanmadang.
Have you ever done one of those breaking competitions, Miyako?
No, I haven't. I only do power breaking for belt tests, and it's been a while for that too. But they're so cool to watch.
Did you break some cinder blocks?
I've never even done cinder blocks. I've only ever done like 4 boards. I think it's the most I've done.
It's a lot of power. So she's showing her power here. At the end of that, look real strong. Good job to Emily Rice.
Sure.
She had a 6.03 for the first Poomsae. And let's see what pops up here. 6.53. So yeah, a lot stronger. That's got to feel good going up a whole half a point between Poomsae. So Emily will finish up with a 6.28.
준비. 시작.
So this is India Rocky. So this is our twin sister of our fellow Rocky that went before this, right?
Right. So her sister is Amaya Rocky, who was in an earlier flight. Now we have India. Quicker tempo.
There's that nice same reach on the front kick.
바로.
It looks like she is trying to push her stances to sit nice and low, but she isn't holding it. So she's sitting low and then rising up a little. So something to work on there as well.
She gets a 6.96.
시작.
Yeah, she's a little similar to her sister in that they can both take a little bit more of a step out in these stances, especially so they're so tall. I think it will make them feel a little more comfortable.
But what great front kicks.
Yeah, nice reach. Look at that.
바로.
And a good finish for India
Shut up.
Rocky. So she
Come on.
got a 6.96 for that first Poomsae. And look at that, 7.040 for this one. A nice little boost for her. So she's going to finish with a 7.0. So I wonder how that's going to play out as far as the cutoff goes. You got your eye on that, Miyako?
준비.
I think after AJ goes, we'll take a look at those standings, but we had a lot of
시작.
high sevens to open us up, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, we sure did. So this is AJ Munoz out of Texas at Team Forge Taekwondo.
Here's an example of a really low back stance there. I wonder if she is wearing a slightly smaller uniform so we can really see her ankles and the leg and the stance heights.
Some athletes do that. We really see that a lot in the cadet and junior divisions where they hike their pants up pretty high to make sure we see a lot of their ankle on their kicking technique, let's say. And some people just like that slimmer look. Like when we're doing a back stance or front stance and we're have a more petite type of body structure, it helps to have a little bit tighter fit. There is a limit to that though, right? There has to be like an aesthetic value to how we're presenting ourselves. We want to make sure we just don't go too far with that.
Right, and
that's AJ Munoz. She gets a nice high 7.94. Of course, we talked about past team members in this division. She was a U.S. representative at the 2018
시작.
World Championships in Taipei in this division.
right, AJ, of course, world renowned for freestyle, but also a very strong competitor in traditional Poomsae, like you mentioned, making the team that year in both traditional and freestyle, which I think is maybe not yet replicated. I'm not sure. Maybe Eddie Jung could have done it in the male division, but I'm not positive about that.
So our present team member, Esther Joe, I don't see her in any of this competition. Do you see her, Miyako, on any of the?
I haven't seen her in this flight, no.
Yep. Or any of the other divisions?
Or in the flights, no.
But
But that is one thing. There are so many top level competitors in the US. You know, we've had almost a different person each year for the past few years at the World Championships. So we don't just have one person who sits on the team for many years. There's a lot of very capable competitors. AJ, Karen, Esther was another one. Even at the beginning of the last flight, we had Christy Park and Hayley Win, all very good top level competitors.
Right, so slightly lower score for AJ with a 7.9 following the 7.94, so she finishes with a 7.92. So yeah, you mentioned several competitors. I'll talk back about that, but for now the standings with Eva Sanderson in first, followed by AJ Munoz, Callie Waldman, who's opened up really strong, Vivian Vo, Natalya Unitones, Valerie Long, Catherine Kong, and Katharina Sokolova. So in this division in first senior female, we have had two athletes be able to represent the U.S. twice. One was Claire Kim in 2006, 2007, and then Carissa Fu in 2014 and 2016. That's a little harder to do because those weren't back to back. There's that 2-year span. Whereas when Claire Kim did it was like 1 year and then the following year, because we used to have World Championships every single year from 2016 to 2014. We had a bit of a debacle in 2015 when Vietnam was going to host. And then after that, we had 2016, then 18, and 20. So every 2 years after that 2015 debacle.
Sounds like a pretty scandalous event.
Yeah. You don't even know. So this is Maria L Aswan from Bang Elite Sport Taekwondo. This is interesting perspective from above. So it takes a couple minutes for my eyes to adjust at this point. So sometimes the kicks will look a little bit lower from this perspective. So Maria gets a 6.5.
And Maria, it says that she is here from the US, from Spring. I'm not sure what state that it's in. But it also says in her facts here that she is part of the Lebanese national team for Poomsae.
Wow.
So she might have a dual citizenship maybe.
I know sometimes when we have short rooms, folks will put their camera up above just to make sure that they don't go out of frame. Goes off the eye a little bit because we're instructed to put the camera right at about the belt height. Well, she's doing a good job here, and it's a shame if, you know, the fine performance gets graded a little bit lower just because of the perspective. So she got a 6.54 to finish her, to follow her 6.56. Going to finish with a 6.55. And we have just two more athletes in the division. The first is Kyra Kozar from Apex Tigers Martial Arts.
Shut.
And here's an example, bright lighting. Maybe it was bright outside. We can tell all the snow in the background there outside. But just making sure that she is bright enough for the judges to see. It takes a second for my eyes to adjust, but nice and clean. It's hard with that bright white background.
I wonder if she's new to the division too, because I don't remember her in the Grand Slam or Summer Poomsae. So maybe she just aged up into this division.
I think I can't remember if she did both of them, but I think she's been in this division now a couple of years because I think I remember her competing in female team, maybe even back to 2019. So she might be about 20 years old, a few years in this division.
Oh, okay.
I think she's in college now. Yeah, so she got a bronze medal at the 2019 National Championships for female team in this division. So she's been in here for a couple years now. Good power.
Wow,
Look at that
look
score.
that big score, 7.640.
시작.
Getting some rotation in the hips there. That's nice.
바로.
Good. I think she got stronger as she went through the form. Nice, strong finish. So she
Sure.
received a 7.640. Now following that up, even higher score, 7.7. So she's going to finish with a 7.67. And our last competitor in this third flight of the female senior one division is Leah Rosenzweig.
Rosenzweig.
There we go. She's from CW Taekwondo at Boston. A little low on that one.
There's a great interview with Leah in the, I think, Grand Slam, where she tore her Achilles a few years ago, had the surgery to replace it, and came back to competition maybe last year, and has just been really working hard, training consistently, great front kicks there. And I think she's just improved a ton over the past year.
That's a lot of physical therapy, right? To get that
It
Achilles
really
tendon
is,
back. Wow.
yeah. So not only, you know, kicking because she was in a boot for so long to heal that, but then also working on the hand techniques. And wow, great score.
Wow.
Losing a little bit of bend again in that front knee on these 8 count. It's really hard. You want to make sure that as you're rotating the hips, which we're seeing, that that front knee doesn't lose the bend. But from this angle, wow, her front kicks just look so high.
Yeah, they look great. That right one look a little stronger, a little bit more vertical posture with it.
Really nice. I can see the hip engagement and the finishing power. I think that really helps kind of show that overall full body click.
So another big score. She had a 7.73 in the first one, now 7.77. So she should be in a pretty nice spot in those standings. She finishes with a 7.75. So let's see how things turned out. We have Eva Sanderson from Denmark in first place, followed by AJ Munoz, Callie Waldman, Vivian Vo, Leah Rosenzweig, Natalya Unitones, Kyra Kozar, and Valerie Long in those first spots, those first 8 spots, moving on to the semifinal round.
There are those final scores, and that will be the end for this episode. Make sure you tune in tomorrow when we start the semifinal divisions.